Everyone, welcome back to our home learning. So this is another week of English. We're going to be carrying on with the Tim Forest this week, but we'll start off by reading what we looked at last week with the Tim Forest, and then I'll read a little bit more of it for you. So this is what we read last week. There was once a wild, windswept place, near nowhere and close to forgotten, that was filled with all the things that no one wanted. Right in the middle was a small house with small windows that looked out on other people's rubbish and bad weather. In the house lived an old man. Every day he tried to tidy away the rubbish, sifting and sorting, burning and burying. And every night the old man dreamed. He dreamed he lived in a jungle full of wild forest animals. There were colourful birds, tropical trees, exotic flowers, toucans, tree frogs and tigers. But when he awoke, his world outside was still the same. So that's what we read last week, and I've seen some fantastic work from different people interviewing the old man, some really great questions and some great answers. So let's carry on reading the Tim Forest and find out what happens in the next part of the story. One day, something caught the old man's eye, and an idea planted itself in his head. The idea grew roots and sprouted. Feeding on the rubbish, it grew leaves. It grew branches. It grew bigger and bigger. Under the old man's hand, a forest emerged. A forest made of rubbish. A forest made of tin. It was not the forest of his dreams, but it was a forest just the same. So what do you think this forest looked like that the old man created? Have a good think. What he's used to make his forest and the things that we know about from the first part of the story. And this is what I'd like you to have a go at first. So this is task 1. Can you draw or create a model of what you think the forest might look like? You can use the things you find around your house to help you, but remember, if you use anything metal, make sure you ask a grown-up first for some help because it might be sharp. Pause the video here. This is task 1 for you to be getting on with. Okay, so this is the forest that the old man actually created. So pause the video here and have a really good look at all the different things that the old man has created in his forest. You can see he's made lots of different kinds of animals, clockwork birds, lizards. Here's the toucan look that he had, lots of different flowers and leaves and different kinds of trees, so even some little insects here and some frogs. Have a really good look at this picture because now we're going to work on describing it. So what I want you to do is to use that picture of the forest that the old man's built from metal and think about what you can see and what you might hear if you were stood in this forest. So using your senses of sight, what kinds of things might you see? And then using your hearing, what might you hear in this forest? So I've thought of one for you for each of those to start with. I thought I might see some enormous trees, because I can definitely see some of them must be very enormous with their thick trunks there. And if I was in this forest, I might hear some creaking. Because it's made from metal, it might be quite creaky. So think really carefully about the things you might hear, because the forest is made of metal. What kind of metal sounds? Maybe even link back to some of the things we did about the Iron Man and some of the noises that we heard in the Iron Man story to help you think about what you might hear. Okay, so pause the video here and I want you to do your list of what you might see and what you might hear in this forest. Okay, here's what I thought I might see. You might have lots of different things to add to it. So I thought I might see a bright flower. I might see some clockwork birds. I might see some silvery branches. I might see some spiky undergrowth. I might see some shiny trunks. And then these were the things that I thought I might hear. So I thought I might hear some creaking, some scraping because it's full of metal. I might hear a flutter of wings. There's butterflies in there and there's birds in there. Clink or a clang or a bang. So you can keep all the words that you've got, or you can add some of mine if you want to yours. Okay. Next, I want us to have a think about how you might feel in this forest, or what you might feel. So I've put some ideas down here already. I think things that would be rough or spiky or jagged or smooth. Okay, so pause the video. Can you add anything else to the things that you might feel in the forest? Okay, final two that I want us to have a think about are what thoughts might you have in the forest and what actions might be going on in this forest. So thinking about thoughts, if you stood in the forest, what kind of things might be going through your head, your inner voice? Things like overwhelmed. You might be overwhelmed with the amount of metal things that you can see in this forest. Some of the actions that you might hear or see happening in this forest, there might be some banging, there might be some snaking of different things, so snaking vines or snaking animals. Pause the video, see if you can think up some more thoughts, some of your inner voice, and some more actions. Okay, so here are my ideas for thoughts. So I said I might be overwhelmed by what I see. It's quite cluttered. There's a lot of things going on in here. It might be towering over me. I might feel like it's towering over me. And some of my thoughts are, it's very solid. It's made of metal. It's really strong and solid. Then here are some of the actions that I might have thought up. Creeping, reaching, trees reaching up to the top. Bursting through the undergrowth. Snaking we've talked about. Camouflaging. See lots of things camouflaging in there because they're all made of the same material that easily camouflage and blend in. Standing, lots of trees standing and branches. And I might growing. Notice that all these actions are ing words. They're all verbs, things that are happening, things that you can do. Okay, so these are the tasks now that I'd like you to complete this week. Try and choose at least one, but if you want to have a go at all of them, then that's absolutely fine. So this is the first one. Label your drawing that you did earlier, or your model, with interesting sentences to describe the forest. Try and use some of that vocabulary that we've collected up, or you can rewind the video and use some of my vocabulary that I collected up earlier too. So that's the first thing you could do. Second thing you could do is you could write a description of the tin forest now that we've seen what it looks like. Use all 5 senses to describe it. And again, try and use the vocabulary collected up, or you can use mine. And the last thing you might want to have a go at, as a little bit of a challenge, can you create a poem about the tin forest? You can use any type of poem that you like to do this. Remember, poems don't need to rhyme. Okay, so you could do one of those poems where you spell tin forest down the side and you write something beginning with each letter of tin forest. That's an acrostic poem. Or you could do a senses poem. I can hear, I can see, I can smell. Or you could just surprise me, making any kind of poem that you like. Okay, so have a good go at least one of those tasks this week for your English work. You can do one each day if you want to do a little bit more. I've really loved seeing everybody's work that's been sent to me by email. And again, I'd love to see some of these. So please, if you do some of these tasks, ask your grown-ups to take a photograph of it for me, email it to me, and I'll write you a little message back around your work. Have fun this week, work hard, stay safe, and we'll see you again next week for English to finish the story of the Tin Forest. Bye for now.